Okay, homebuyers, the day has finally come. Starting on August 17th, the way that you go about purchasing a home in both Orange County as well as the rest of the United States is about to dramatically change. So are you actually going to have to start paying a professional real estate agent to be able to help you purchase a home? That's the exact question we're going to answer on today's episode. So let's go ahead and get into it. So today I'm going to cover three different topics. So number one, what exactly has changed in the way that homebuyers purchase a home in the United States starting on August 17th. Number two, how exactly should home buyers navigate these new changes? And then number three, what are the actual chances that home buyers are going to have to come out of pocket to be able to use a professional real estate agent when they go to purchase a home? So let's go ahead and start with all the changes that have happened. Now you can find 1,000 different articles that go into much more detail about why all these changes are happening in the lawsuit with the National Association of Realtors. However, today I'm going just to sum it up for you and give you exactly what you need to know when you go to purchase a home. So before August 17th, the way the home buying process worked is that when a seller wanted to sell a home, they'd contact a listing agent. Between the seller and the listing agent, they would come up with some set commission rate that the listing agent was going to get, and then the listing agent would split that with the buyer's agent in most cases. And on top of that, they are allowed to advertise exactly what that percentage would be. And so that way, before anybody even placed an offer on the home, the buyers already knew what the buyer's agent was going to get to represent them in purchasing that home. There is no negotiations involved in most cases. However, starting on August 17th, the new rules basically say that it's no longer allowed for selling agents to put in the MLS what the seller is willing to compensate the buyer's agent for. So it's all going to be blank. There's going to be nothing there. And what a buyer is going to have to do is basically submit an offer to the seller. And on top of that, they're going to have to ask for closing cost credit so they can use that closing cost to help pay for the real estate agent that's helping them through the transaction. So instead of everything being pre-negotiated up front, this is going to be a case-by-case basis that you're going to have to submit with an offer every time as a buyer and ask for that closing cost credit to help pay for your agent. So the other major change because of this ruling starting on August 17th is the way that you go and look at homes. So before this ruling, you can contact an agent, say, I want to check out these 3 homes. They'd go show you those homes and no contracts had to be signed. If you didn't like the homes or didn't like the agents, you can just walk away. However, with this new ruling, even to see a single home, you are now going to have to sign what's called a buyer-broker agreement, which is basically just an agreement between you and the buyer's agent outlining the responsibilities of both parties. Now, before you go saying, I don't want to sign anything before I even met the agent to see if I work well with him, before I can see if he's knowledgeable about what's going on, don't worry. These contracts, at least in California, are going to be highly flexible. They could be anywhere from 1 day up to 3 months. And on top of that, you can also just specify a couple houses on there. So if you're not sure you want to work with them and you want to go check out a house, you can have that contract signed up that it only applies to the single property or maybe 1 or 2 properties. And then after that, you're released and you can go find another agent if you guys don't work well together. And this works both ways. So as a real estate agent, I also don't like committing up front to work with a buyer until I had a chance to meet them, fill them out, see if we're going to actually work well together. So this is going to be helpful in both situations. However, the biggest thing for buyers to know is that you're going to have to sign a contract. It's mandatory. Whether you call Zillow because you saw a listing you wanted to check out, or you contact your local real estate agent, no matter what agent you use, you're going to have to sign one of these forms. So at this point, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, so now I have to sign a form saying that I'm going to pay a real estate agent. And on top of that, when I submit an offer, I have no guarantee knowing if the seller is going to credit me money to help pay for that real estate agent. That doesn't sound like a great deal for the buyers. So now let's go ahead and talk about how you can navigate these new changes as a home buyer. So the first thing you're going to want to do as a home buyer before you start the process of looking for a home is you need to figure out what type of representation you want. There's basically 4 different ways to go about purchasing a home here in Orange County as well as most of the United States. So number 1, you can hire a professional real estate agent. Much like what you see today, they're going to walk you through the entire transaction and basically go from start to finish representing your best interests, making sure you stay legally and financially out of trouble, and going through that whole process. The next option would be to hire a discount agent. So maybe someone that's just going to write the contract for you and not really help with finding the home or going through inspections or negotiations during escrow, and they might charge a little bit lower fee. The next option would be to forgo any separate representation and go straight to the listing agent whenever you find a home that you like. So I never liked this. It's called dual agency. I'm hoping at some point it will be illegal, but it's basically saying that one agent is representing both the seller and the buyer's best interest at the same time, which in my opinion is pretty much impossible. That's like hiring a divorce attorney that's going to represent both the husband and the wife at the same time. It's just not going to work out. And then number 4 would be to represent yourself. That's always been an option. You can do that if you want to. Obviously, it's not something that I would recommend because of the legal as well as financial ramifications of such a large purchase, but it's always an option to do so. So let's say you talked about the different options and you decided that you wanted the representation that was exclusive by either a professional real estate agent or maybe even a discount real estate agent. The next thing that you have to understand as a buyer is that timelines have shifted when it comes to looking for a home. So no longer are you able to wake up one Saturday morning and say, you know what, today I want to go look for homes. So you call the agent from one of the ads you got in a mailer, or maybe you saw a button on Redfin that said set up a showing. That's not something that I recommend most home buyers are going to do anymore, because again, you're going to need to sign some type of contract committing to that agent that's going to show you that property. So you really want to make sure you're doing your research before you start signing any of those contracts, which means that before you start looking for homes, it's going to be a good idea that you talk to multiple real estate agents and figure out which option might be the best fit for you long before you decide to start actually looking for homes. So this is something that you really have to shift that mindset of, if I think I'm going to look for homes in October, then maybe a month before that, I need to start contacting real estate agents, interviewing them, and then figuring out which option is going to be best for me. But I wouldn't be surprised if you also start seeing real estate agents offer some type of tier pricing depending on the service they're giving you. So for instance, maybe they're just going through and setting up a basic search that's showing you all the active homes on the MLS, and maybe they're showing you a few homes and agreeing to write the offer for you, but that's about it. That might be one set price they're giving you. The next option up might be something like looking for homes that are off market that they've known about in the past. So let's say there's a canceled listing or an expired listing. They might be contacting those homeowners to see if they still might be interested in selling, and finding that off market inventory for you, taking up more of their time to do so, and a larger commitment of time is going to warrant a larger price increase. And then you're going to have the premium agents that are going to say, not only am I doing all that stuff, but I'm also going to run geo-targeted ads around the area that you're looking to purchase a home, and I'm actually going to be spending money out of my pocket to help find you that hidden inventory that no one knows about yet, to see if I can find a home for you besides what's active on the MLS. And those are the type of services that are going to benefit you and are probably going to warrant a more premium price tag, because they're spending their own money out of pocket up front to try to find you those homes besides what's just active on the MLS, which is what most agents do right now. So you're going to have a lot of information to go over and a lot of different things to choose from. So again, it's good to get this out of the way before you decide to start looking for homes. That way, you know what agent you want to work with, you know you work well with them, you can get that contract signed and be confident when you start the home buying process. Now, let's say you did interview a bunch of agents and you're still not comfortable giving that long-term commitment to them. This is when you want to bring up those shorter contracts. So maybe let's go ahead and see some homes. Let's make the contract a week long, and anything I see during this week that I'll commit to you. But outside that, I want to make sure that we work well together, that you're providing me value, and then I'll recommit to a longer period after that. So just know, as a buyer, you have those rights in the contract to make them short, to make them long, to be only for specific homes. So make sure you use that option if you don't feel confident in the agent that you're trying to use. The last thing that you should know as a buyer that's navigating this new market is understand that yes, the seller is no longer allowed to put into the MLS exactly what they're offering to the buyer's agent. However, they are allowed to say whether or not they would at least consider compensating the buyer some closing costs if they submitted the right offer. So you'll be able to understand up front if the seller's at least open to some type of negotiation with that. And on top of that, if they don't indicate that, you can always have your agent call the listing agent and find that information out out as well. So there's nothing that says that the buyer's agent can't call the listing agent and ask if the seller is willing to provide some type of closing cost credit if they submit an offer. That is completely legal under these new rules. So there are ways to figure out up front if there's a good chance you're going to be able to get some type of compensation to help pay for your real estate agent before you even place the offer. One of the other things that you really need to consider that I don't see talked about very often in terms of how likely it is the seller is going to credit the buyer some type of funds to help them pay for the buyer's agent is the way that the seller and the listing agent's contract works. So let me explain. So typically when a seller and a listing agent get together and agree on a commission, let's say it's 2.5% of the purchase price, they're also going through and negotiating, what if I get a buyer to come directly to me? And so basically the selling agent is working as the buyer's agent, that dual agency I talked about. They're usually going to negotiate a higher commission price of maybe 1% more. So instead of 2.5%, they're going to ask for 3.5% if a buyer goes directly to the listing agent, because the listing agent now has to do a lot more paperwork. They have to deal with other things like inspections. So there's more work on their end, so they expect to be compensated for that. It would make sense that if a buyer's agent bought a buyer and that buyer was asking for 1% closing cost credit, and you also have another buyer that's going directly to the listing agent, it's not going to be any difference in terms of the amount of money the seller's making, because either way, they're going to be paying that 1%. So even in a seller's market, I still think that there's a decent chance that most sellers are going to be at least willing and open to providing some type of closing cost credit to any buyer that comes to the property, because they already kind of had it in their head they might be paying a little bit higher rate anyway. And so knowing that should give you some comfort that when you place an offer and you ask them for closing cost credit, most of the time, hopefully, sellers should at least give you something on there. Now, it might not cover everything. However, they might pay for 75% of it, and then you would have to come out of pocket to cover any difference. Now, the last thing I want to bring up in terms of how likely it is that the seller is going to compensate the buyer some type of money to help them pay for a buyer's agent has to do with the type of people that are most negatively affected by these new rules, which have to be the first-time home buyers that just don't have a lot of cash in their bank account and can't afford to be able to hire a professional real estate agent to help them out and cover closing costs and down payment at the same time. So when you're looking at a home that's under $1 million, let's say for first-time home buyers in Orange County, odds are, if you're trying to purchase a home like that, most offers coming into that seller are going to be asking for some type of closing cost credit, because most of them are probably in the same position of not having a lot of cash on hand, and therefore they can't afford to pay an agent of their own. So if you're a seller and you have 10 offers coming in, maybe 9 of them are going to be asking for some type of closing cost credit, and another one is going to be a cash offer, but it's going to be much lower than the asking price. And in a lot of cases, it's still going to be a much better deal for the seller to offer some type of concession to one of those buyers that might be offering a higher purchase price, because ultimately it's going to net them the most amount of money. So understand that even though first-time home buyers are being impacted most negatively from this new ruling, there's also probably the largest chance of them getting some type of closing cost credit to help them afford to be able to use professional representation when they're purchasing a home. Now, for those buyers out there that are still skeptical and a little shocked about this whole situation, there are 2 points that I want to make here. So number one, I think there is definitely a pro to this happening for buyers right now, because it's going to weed out a lot of those part-time agents or agents that just didn't do their job and didn't provide value. In order to stay in business, buyer's agents are going to have to step up, provide a lot more value to you as a buyer to help walk you through that transaction and making sure that you understand everything, making the process as easy as possible, and then keeping you protected both legally as well as financially throughout the entire thing. So I think in general, over the years, this is going to produce a much better experience for anybody trying to purchase a home. And the other thing you have to remember is that if you're working with a great agent, you're going to be able to still see every home that you want to see. You're going to be able to place a great offer on those homes that you like and basically ask for the things that you need to be able to comfortably close on that home. And then the seller is going to respond to that with the terms and a counteroffer, and you and the agent are going to be able to go through that. And again, if you're working with a good agent that's honest. They're gonna go through all the financials and say, okay, based on what the seller told me, this is how much you're going to be paying in closing costs. Are you comfortable with that or not? So you're going to have all the information at your fingertips. You're gonna be able to make a smart decision when purchasing a home, and you're gonna be able to find a great home for you and your family for the foreseeable future. Now, if you are thinking of buying a home and you wanna get more information about how you can place a great competitive offer that has nothing to do with the price, make sure you check out this video right here where I go over all that information. And if you have any questions whatsoever about these changes or just the home buying process in general, feel free to see the description below, and I have a link where you can schedule a 15-minute discovery call and I can answer any specific questions you have. So until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and I will see you on the next show. Bye, everyone.